recorded for 4 days.
Oh wow, you did the
4-hour sessions it took me.
Oh wow.
Literally do 3 lines of each line and that's it.
$4,000 for 16 hours of work. Hello everyone, do you hear? Game developers, alright? And I will talk more about Hellena Taylor and why Japanese voices do more for the games, why they're hard to replace, and why they push and promote the video game a lot more, and with anime and so on, right? And actually, why they are worth more money, objectively speaking. A lot of people can get angry saying that, but I want to go over this thing in this video, because after doing my first video about Hellena Taylor, I was thinking about, wait a minute, yeah, but one huge thing is people don't understand is that in Japan, they work very differently, right? And of course, I think it's very interesting. My second point is going to be about how time changes, right? How culture or how the hype or the anti-hype, whatever, right, can really swap. Because I think it's very interesting, right, seeing these last few days. Because I made my video and I said basically this thing right in my video. I was not a bit, I was the first or whatever, but I was pretty early saying that, this doesn't make sense to me. Isn't that rate pretty basic? Isn't that pretty kind of the standard rate? Right? That's what I said, right? And when I made my video then, yeah, people were like, the first comments were like, F you, right, so on, right? But then, the next day, basically, or the next half day, honestly, I feel like everyone kind of knew this now, and then, of course, suddenly, everyone's like, wait a minute, she made a lot of money in a few hours, right? So, first, let's go over what I think has happened since then, and then I want to explain to you, and I really will prove to you, why Japanese voices are much more important for their game and anime, and they are, okay? They are. And they promote it way more. And so when I explain why, and it is objectively true, and people get angry, people are going to be like, it's not to do with, oh, do you like Japanese over English, right? Like sub or whatever. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with like how the Japanese voice actors, they go out and like cosplay the characters and right, And Hellena Taylor is a great example of an actor, right? I was there. That's not nothing for her character, Bayonetta. Absolutely nothing. But okay, before we get into Japanese VAs, let's talk about Hellena Taylor and the news and so on, right? So, I guess I mentioned, right, I think it's very interesting, and of course I followed how, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, everything, YouTube, right, is changing, right? So like I said, I think it's very, very cool to see it. The first day, right, everyone is like, she's underpaid, it's wrong, and so on. Second day, it's like, actually, she's overpaid, man, she's making like $250, $300 per hour, like, what, And as I said, right, I basically already said that in my video before people talked about it a lot, right, with the few hours they actually work, right, and I want to point out that I still think that it's generally underpaid. Like I said before, I still think that you're generally underpaid, right, because yes, you can do like 4 or 5 gigs per month in this kind of math, right, but let's be honest here, even a more famous voice actor probably gets at best maybe 2 gigs a month, right, so probably like 1 gig a month. That being said, though, and it's coming to my second point, right, is that, yeah, but if you do 1 gig a month, right, because you're pretty like, basic VA, right, you can do a lot of other stuff on the same time, right, you can basically have a full-time job and still do, 1 voice acting a month, right. It's exactly what I said in my first video, and I want to iterate again on that point that, yeah, it's kind of underpaid in the sense that if you think about as, you gotta do 1 video game per month, right, so it's big, yeah, that's kind of hard to live on that. You can still live on it, right? But still, though, and I want to iterate here, emphasize that it is still worse being a game dev, though. It is, right? Because you get way less money if you're a coder, or designer, or something. You get really bad underpaid, right? You get really, really underpaid. Yes, they can work for X number of years, and it's not gig, right? But their hourly salary is a joke. And I was like, again say here, right, that if you're a game developer, like a coder, you can easily make double the money if you just go and work for a bank, or triple the money, You can make way more money, right? So you're working on a video game, you get incredibly bad salary. You really do. And that's also why I felt, and I've seen the aftermath now, when people know about so much in per hour and so on, right, and everyone knows about it. It's like, yeah, but it's a way better job, arguably, than actually being the coder. Because you work so little, a few hours, you can do any other job on the same time, right? You can have another part-time at the same time and so on, right? Or whatever, right? Yeah. But of course, in her case, where since it straight up hasn't done anything in like 8 years since then, yeah, I can understand why she wants more money, because it's very hard for her to live on doing nothing at all, right? It's like a weird thing with her. We'll come into that later. But I still was going to really emphasize that, yes, everyone's underpaid. People should get more money, but, I'm coming back to it that I think you should pay the designer, the coder, the artist, the technical animator, the VFX, etc., they should all get more paid, and I stand by my opinion that they should all get more paid before the voice actor does, because they're all more important for the actual video game, and they actually spend, maybe 2-3 years, like, designing code or whatever this game, right? And this person spends like a week or 2 at most at this game, and they can do anything else right during those 3 years, which can make money or have another job or whatever. So I think you have to look at that, think about that, right? Yeah, I think so. The more people come with that, right? And I think honestly it irks me again, right? Because it is way, come on, it's like everyone. Why aren't people tweeting, all these angry tweets that Hideki Kamiya said, right, about, the coder guy, he only gets like $2,000 a month, right? What's tweet about that, right? Honestly, right? Honestly. And I was salty, but I'm just like coming from the whole industry, right? Having done many different roles in the industry, and I know how incredibly underpaid people are, right? It just feels like, yeah, people are underpaid, but, it's a gig economy, right? So that's one thing I want to address here. Secondly, it obviously is, as I said, very interesting, right? How the culture, I call it, the storm massively soft, right? As I said earlier. And I think we see it almost in every case of this thing, right? And I want to go into talk about her, like, that she's apparently might be a transphobic, or maybe she's a racist and all stuff, right? But I think it's very, very classic, though. And I just want to address it here, generally speaking. I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm just saying that that's what people are saying right now about her, right? And I just want to point out that, yeah, that's kind of what happens almost every time someone does this thing, right? As soon as someone goes out and say, I'm virtually about this thing, right? And we saw exactly the same thing with Totally Not More. Not exactly the whole stuff, but I mean, he went out, right, attacked Toei, right, for being unethical and so on, right? I made a video about that, and then it showed that Totally Not Mark was actually like selling merchandise illegally, right? And then it was like very, very like, he took like Goku, like manga art, right? Put it on his clothing, and I was selling that. That is straight up illegal. People say, no, but see, that was straight up illegal, right? And his videos, and I talked about it in my previous video earlier this year, maybe they aren't previous, maybe the future, but selling that, like, the merchandise stuff with their art on it, right? Making money on that. He stopped doing that. He stopped doing that. But that is not legal. That is objectively not legal, right? You can't just say, it's like if I took Bayonetta, right? Here, right? And I took Bayonetta's face, right? I have my street fighter from here. I put it on, a t-shirt, right? So they're selling that. That's, copyright infringement. It is, right? I probably get away with it, right? If I print Bayonetta on my t-shirt and I go around and sell it on the street right now, it's a random kind of local, I probably get away with it. But then, I mean, he had that website and everything. My point is that, whenever anyone gets out and be like, I am ethically right, their people are not moral, I am the good, they are evil, right? People are always gonna go and find new evil stuff, right? I'm just saying, right? I'm not saying that Hellena Taylor necessarily, but we're not claiming her is true or not. I'm just saying that, yes, if you're gonna go and basically grandstand, right, on social media, you have to make sure that your own backyard isn't dirty, right? You don't have skeleton in closet, right? Because people are gonna find that stuff and be like, well, but didn't you say this thing about, trans people? Yeah, that's kind of what people are gonna find, right? And I won't go into if it's true or not. I haven't seen like, I would say, straight 100 evidence that she's this, whatever. But it definitely is coming up more and more and stuff, right? And I just gonna point out here immediately that I think we're gonna see more bad stuff about her coming up in the future, right? I really think so, because people are gonna keep digging, right, to prove that she's a bad person, right? It always happens. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about why is the Japanese voice actor more valuable for the company? Why do they do way more for the game and so on than the English used to do? And this is very, very true, and this is factually true for the industry. And I know people are gonna get angry at this thing, right? Say, dog piling on this poor woman that makes the money, whatever. But honestly, right, and this is why I make this point too, because I said it several times in my previous video, and I said it in my comments over, right? We have to be honest, right? People are never honest. We have to be honest here, right? Hellena Taylor hasn't worked as Bayonetta, right, for 8 years. And during these 8 years, she hasn't done anything with the character, nor has she done anything as a voice acting. And I keep coming back to this thing, right? And people are saying I'm wrong or whatever. But she brings no star power, right? If you're gonna make more money as an actor, right? As an actor in live action, right? Voice acting or whatever, right? You need to have some celebrity power. I have seen people compare her money to Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt is the massive, mega superstar. Of course, you're gonna get way more money paid to be Mario, because he brings people to the theater. People wanna see Chris Pratt in anything, right? So he brings people. So people that wouldn't see the Mario movie are literally gonna see the Mario movie purely because he is voicing it. So other people are gonna see it because Jack Black is voicing and so on, right? These are very, very famous people, right? If you wanna have this absurd salary to be a voice actor, right? It's like $1,000 per minute or whatever, right? You need to be extremely famous. It's just how it is, right? And Hellena Taylor has done nothing what I can see. You can prove me wrong or not, but I haven't found a single thing she's done right, basically, since Bayonetta 2, which is over 8 years ago. And that has to be said, right? So next to me here, then, you're seeing who voices Nasuna in the anime last season. This is Sora. She's arguably now then the most recognizable and famous female, voice actor in Japan, right? Also was Aqua, of course, behind me, right? So obviously I'm biased. And other people say I'm biased, oh, you're a Japanese weebo. But let's be honest here, right? Look at the image next to me here. This is the voice actor, right, of Nasuna. Look at her hair. She has literally the Nasuna hairstyle, her clothing. She's cosplaying as the character she is voicing. It is a massive difference, right, than what Hellena Taylor does. That is just like, I'm just gonna AFK for 8 years and not increase my star power by anything, right? I haven't even found her going to any convention. And I've asked people that I know that are into this stuff, right, a lot to go to all the calls and one. Have you ever met, her? No, she hasn't, right? And she's like, she even goes out to say that Jennifer Hale can't, write, but just do this anyway, right? And maybe it's harsh here, but I'm just being realistic, right? Because if you're gonna be an actor, you have to work for it. You have to increase that celebrity status, right? You have to do other stuff. If she had voiced, 35 other games, right, across this time, and became a very famous, very iconic voice, 8 years after all, right? Very iconic voice actors by now then, she would probably get more money, right? I mean, it's basically pretty straightforward, right? But even more so, right, I want to point out here how the Japanese voice, this is, again, Sora here, arguably the biggest star right now in Japan, right, in VA. She literally cosplays as the character that she's voicing in every character, basically. So every time she does an interview as any anime or gaming character, right, she basically dresses up as that character and goes to the interview. I mean, have you seen English actors? No, they don't. And you can say this is a Japanese culture, blah, blah, so on. Yeah, but come on, let's be honest here. If Hellena Taylor, right, was cosplaying as Bayonetta, and she was doing, interviews, she was on YouTube, she had her own YouTube channel, she was like cosplaying Bayonetta, doing all the voice lines, playing the game with Bayonetta. If she did all that shit, right, I think she would have a way bigger audience, right? And again, she would have way bigger star power, and she probably would also be more entitled to say, I own Bayonetta, because she would actually literally be Bayonetta, right, in real life, to speak, right? She's done nothing of this, right, at all. And that is a huge difference between the Japanese voice actors, that many of them do this stuff, right? We, the English and so on, are kind of like, I voice it, then I go and do something else, right? Yeah. But anyway, I will even more examples here. So here's is I for Us. She's done a couple of different characters, mostly blonde like her, right? Doing Power right now, Chainsaw Man. And her first leading role was as Hibiki in Dumbbell. So if you haven't seen Dumbbell, right, it's about a girl going, of course, and lifting, right? And so you can see here, I for Us literally went and did a long series of gym exercise videos, right? So she's voicing in the main anime, the main character, it's her first leading role. She's voicing the gym girl, right? And she does like, okay, I'm gonna do a long YouTube series of, me going to the gym, right? And she even did even further and got on TV and so on, doing, gym exercise stuff, right? And you can see my point, right? This is her first leading role, and she went all in to be like, okay, I'm gonna like become the character I am voicing, right? This of course propels her popularity, right? It makes the character become her even more. She's more Hibiki now, right? Than if she uses voices, right? Be putting right. However, what does it do more? It also promotes the anime. People can see it on TV. People can see it on YouTube. People can see it, right? Doing the actual stuff the cat's doing in the anime, right? He's basically cosplaying straight up, literally doing the stuff from the episodes in real life. Of course, that promotes more people to watch the actual anime. It's a massive difference, right? Than what most, Western people. Okay, so we're back to Sora, right? So Sora, again, right? She's Aqua, etc. Aqua, she's in so many. She's lead character in everything, basically. And she does this here, right? This is up as Aqua, the character, and so on. Does this stuff, right? The hair, all this stuff, right? All the time, every interview, she is the character, she is, and she takes it very, very seriously. She also sings the opening, basically, for like 50 animes, all right? So that's kind of the whole thing, right? However, she also does this stuff. She dresses up as the character, and Aqua in Konosuba is famous for her portraits, right? For her fan moves and so on. She dresses up, and she does this fun stuff, right? She's literally doing, cosplaying, and then doing kind of, honestly, people would be embarrassed, right? Doing the, I'm gonna dress up as the character, jump on the ground, right? And pretend to be her in a weird, trick stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like, this takes a lot of, I would say, effort and personality or whatever, right? But also generally saying that this woman is really working her ass right to be the character and go on those interviews and literally do the stuff that the woman does. She's method acting, right, to the max. Another great example, we have a Zombieland Sega from MAPPA. So this is an anime about like girls that are dead being turned into zombies, right, and then they actually have to perform music, okay, as idol girls. It's very, very Japanese. However, this show was a big hit then, right, surprise hit. And what they did was that the actors then, right, so it's 7 actresses voicing the characters, and the oldest one then also was Sailor Moon. She's quite old, right, so she didn't do this. But the other 6 then, they went out, right, and made an actual, like, live action idol band performance, right, of the character. And I know people say this is very Japanese, but seriously, isn't this awesome? Look at these girls here. Like, they are running around here, right, dressed up as the characters, right, from the different performances of Zombieland Sega. So they also change clothing between acts, each song, right? They have the red dress, now it's the white dress, and then behind them, of course, is the actual like animated episode, right? And then they're doing the dance and they're singing like the character in their show. And I mean, almost people say, oh, you're just a weeb or whatever, blah blah blah. But let's be honest here, right? And I really mean this thing, right? These people here, for example, then, like the Saki and so on, right? There's one character in Zombie Sega. Her voice actress has done numerous interviews, right? She has spent like a year dressing up as the character, as her idol girl character, right? In these weird outfits and all. I don't know, again, it's very Japanese, right? But she's done this, right? She's done singing performances, she's been on radio, and she's done all of this stuff, right? For over a year between Zombieland 1 and Zombieland 2, right? So if you think about that, has she then promoted the sales figures of Zombieland 2? Of course she had, because she spent a lot of time on this shit, right? She spent like months doing stuff, performing as the character, and she even looks at the character in real life, because the fang and everything. Talked about her like body, she's born with like a fang teeth, and how that makes her, she was bullied, and she, I relate to my character I'm playing because she's a Yankee, and we kind of similar in reality, and yada yada yada. She spent, a lot of time investing herself into the character, promoting the character, right? Promoting the anime, promoting his mobile gaming and all stuff, right? I mean, I hope people get my point. That isn't just about Japanese culture, weebo, that anime is better in dub or English, sub, whatever. It is about that the Japanese voice actors, the Seiyuu, also of course the males too, but especially the Seiyuu, the females one, they really can do a lot of other stuff, right? They really spend all this time promoting this stuff, right? They go around doing this stuff. It's about cosplaying the character, right? And so this here is Asami Tano. She voices Saki in some Sega. I would argue for it's the main character, or the best good at least, right? But my point, of course, is that if I compare her and Hellena Taylor, people say, again, I'm dogpiling on the poor woman that only makes $4,000 or whatever, right? My point here is that, again, Asami Tano, right, has spent over a year promoting the Saturn. I know I keep saying that, but the thing about it, she talked about her, as I mentioned, her issue, the body right, how to do the character, blah, 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 so on. So people really think about, oh, she does this stuff right, and we have to come back to this thing that, what has Hellena done right? Literally nothing. And I really mean it. I'm not trying to be mean, right? I'm not trying to be like, oh, what a loser, she's done nothing. I'm just being realistic here, right? Another comment I had in my previous video that says, oh, you're so one-sided. But I'm not being one-sided. I'm just being like, well, if one side has non-argument in their favor, it's just, it's what it is, right? I'm not trying to be like, oh, she did everything wrong or whatever. That's not my point. I'm just like, but what can I say, right? From a comparable voice actors, right? For example, then Jennifer Hale again, right? The new Bayonetta was there. As everyone heard it said, right? This woman has done, you know, like numerous games, right? She has done 50, 60 more games, right, in this 8 years time frame than what Taylor does. And that, again, automatically gives her way more celebrity star power, I said it earlier, right? But it really does, right? She has spent that time, you know, increasing her career, increasing her fame, right? Hellena Taylor again has done literally nothing, right? And that is the cold fact. She has done nothing whatsoever. But, and I mean from like a typical voice acting. However, what I can find, as I mentioned several times, she also hasn't done any, you know, cosplaying, conning, if anything, maybe very little 8 years ago. Haven't seen it done in recent, right? It is not like, it also actually she has spent her time, right, over the years, right, going to cons. With Asami-chan here, right, she goes to every goddamn con there is, you know what I mean? It's just a massive difference, right? She goes to like every goddamn con she can. She's like, people are coming up with, you know, like Zombieland, like a hentai to her. She's like, oh, I can sign it, you know. That's basically, she's like, oh yeah, you get an autograph. Oh, it's me naked, who cares, you know. She's basically, it's like that, right, yeah. It's just a massive difference between these two ladies. And of course I'm biased, because I think Zombieland is a great anime. And of course Saki is my favorite character, so, you know, her voice is my favorite character. I am probably saying I'm biased from that standpoint. But isn't the reason I am biased because I like the anime, right? I like the supportive stuff. I like their foods that they do, so I like the Disney stuff and all stuff, right? And then by doing that, I also got into, oh shit, man, they're doing like live idol performance. I can go and talk to her live, right? Because I've been, you know, I'm in Japan and so on, yeah. So I can go, you know, to her live performance. That's crazy. For me, it's awesome. We have an anime that gets so popular about music that the characters playing the voicing it started a real band. Come on, I think it's awesome. I was like, man, it's pretty cool. Let's go to them, right? For example, many years ago, I was for Blizzard, right? Many years ago, and you probably heard about Blizzard having their bands. So we make music in house. Let's make our own band. Stuff like that is cool, right? Yeah, that's cool. It promotes the company. It's a cool thing. We can kind of go back, make it your own music, and make the music in the game again. You know, yada yada. Doing all that stuff is also very important, yeah, right? If you want to be any kind of entertainment industry, right? For example, when I got my job at Blizzard, what was I doing on the same time before that? I was actually one of the best ranked players in the world in StarCraft 2. I wasn't like the best player or whatever, but I was currently top 10 Europe ladder player, right? When I applied for my job at Blizzard, one of them, right? When I got the job. So when I had an interview with them, right? They were like, oh, we often do play our games. I was like, well, as you see my resume and this thing, I'm currently streaming on this thing. I'm like the top 10 player, you know, and I'm playing this thing. So they were like, yeah, right? That gives me a bonus, right? They also give me a little bit of fame, right? Because I also won some map contest. I also won some, you know, design contest, right? For StarCraft 2 and so on. So also a little bit of like fame in the assets, right? But obviously from my gamer aspect then, right? They give me a lot of creds, right? But also a little bit of fame, right? Because I had a few followers, right? I had a Twitch channel, you know, back in the days then, Season 2, right? Oh, you got like, you know, 100 people watching it or whatever, yeah. A little bit of fame in that sense too, right? It increases your chance of getting that job, right? That's how you have to think about it, right? When I applied for my lead design job, where I was the director and so on of the voicing, I was also playing many games. I was a competitive player in Pokemon, so that's actually one of the highest ranked, you know, Pokemon tournament, you know, PvP and so on, right? And I showed the CEO. I was like, oh, well, currently I'm actually playing Pokemon. I'm doing this thing, right? And I also do this art by myself, right? You know, for example, I show you this thing here. I'm showing you the sneak peek here, right? But I actually been working for the latest months, teaching myself to do this kind of art stuff, right? This is my art. This is my art here, yeah. So I've been teaching myself to do this thing for this year, right? A few years ago during Corona, I used to play music as a kid, right? So during Corona, I had a lot of, you know, free time. Who didn't, right? A little bit more. I worked from home and so on. So I started to teach myself to play the piano again. I was a kid, so I started playing piano again. Because I wanted to write, you know, game music, right? I was like, I can have time now to teach myself to make some own music, right? Because when I was in college and I worked on my first games, I actually wrote the music for several games. So I made 2 platform games in college, like real games that we sold, right, and so on. And I was the one that made the music, right? But since then I didn't make any music. So during COVID starts, then I went back and started to write my own music again. For example, right? Now I'm doing art, right? You know, now I'm starting to work on this kind of art. This again is my art, right? I'm doing this art. No one's seen this before at all. So this is the first time I showed an image here. I've been doing this art now, etc. Right? You know, so obviously my point, right, is that if you want to have an entertainment job, right, you need to work your ass off, right? Because it's very hard to be that 1% that makes it, right? But you also need to increase whatever you are doing, right? And I'm sorry, right, but when it comes to me, right, I respect this kind of VA, right, that I know is going to every convention, right? I know that she goes over it. I know she dresses up as the character. I know she literally dyes her hair blonde and all this stuff. And then the next week, her hair is red because she's playing a cat with red hair, right? She's changing her outfit to be that character. That I can respect. I'm like, man, that woman is freaking hard worker, right? And she's famous, she's fun, and all this stuff, right? She's making YouTube videos, and she's got some quick TikTok videos or whatever. She's doing all this shit, right? And then we have, and I really think it's very important thing about here, right? That Hellena Taylor then, honestly, right, really is the opposite, right? I mean, I'm not saying that other VAs is better. I'm not saying, right, that American VAs or whatever doesn't do this stuff. They go to the convention, they make a money, so many of them do, right? But again, compared to the American ones, but the Japanese ones are still way, they're way far away from it. Again, Japanese VAs are much more, right? But sure, the Americans, a little bit, the English one, yeah, a little bit. They do a little bit too, right? Yeah, speaking. But I have to come back to this point. I'm sorry, but this woman is like the perfect example of a VA that doesn't work for it, right? And I mean that in the nicest way I can, right? Because, yeah, she hasn't done anything for 8 years. Hasn't taken any other role, right? She's never spent time investing herself into this character outside of those few hours, right? More or less, right? And the reason why, right, is because I come back to this entitlement of her thinking that she owns the character, attacking the new VA and so on, right? And I'm sure, honestly, I'm gonna guess it, but honestly, right, I think that the new VA of Bayonetta is probably gonna promote the character more than she is, right? Just even before now, but probably will, right? She's a much more active person in the community. She's gonna go to those conventions and so on much more, right? So the chance of you getting an autograph, right, from the new VA is probably way higher. For example, right, that's gonna promote the sales of the game. It's gonna promote her own career, but they're also gonna promote that maybe you meet her. Oh, she's a nice lady, and now you go and buy that game, right? That you haven't bought before, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we have to compare the stuff too. Some people that hear us in that plotted the game, you just wanted to fire her, right? And because she was mess to work with, they wanted the more famous VA. That might very well be right. They were like, we'd rather have the VA with more star power, and it's way more active, and it's way more popular, and she's gonna make us sell more games, and she's also gonna have in a long tail effect. It's a long tail, right? When you're selling stuff after Republic, right? So long tailing is, let's say I make the best game ever in history, right? And it says 1 million this year. But it's the best game ever. People can keep buying it, right? Over the years, right? Because it's so good, right? So a long tail effect of having a very popular and very nice, VA, right, is that of course people might keep buying your game partially because she is popular and makes them buy the game, 3-4 years later, right? And the likelihood of Hellena creating a long tail effect is basically zero, right? And that's just the honest truth. And people say, oh, but it really is. Long tail is very important for certain industries, right? I would say books is probably the most important because in books you print your books and you sell more in the afterward. And we see, especially this climbing book, it was very famous for that it was out for 10 years, no one bought it, but then another book in climbing got popular, people bought the similar book, right? It was much better, so now that book sold 1 million, and you have different long tail, like extreme long tail effects in history. But basically, it is very important to point out, right, that I think that Hellena Taylor really has no long tail, right? Because given the history of her not doing anything else, right, she's not producing more fame for her voice, and then in part, right, to Bayonetta, right? Because again, right, if she was very famous, if she increased her fame status, right, over the 8 years, people might definitely rather, buy, kind of like Chris Pratt. Oh my God, this famous woman was Bayonetta. I need to buy the game, right? No one is saying that, right? No one's saying that. That is a factual truth. I know people say, oh, you're so mean to her, but no, I'm just saying that. Isn't that largely, to some extent, her own fault, right? Because I can't see any evidence of her trying it. Maybe I'm just wrong, maybe no one ever hired her, but it comes back to that still, like, but if no one hires you, you have to think, okay, but, it's something else going on here, right? If no one hires you for 8 years, I'm just gonna say that. But no matter what, right, the chance of her producing a long tail effect, it is zero, right? Because we have seen the past before, she has never done long tailing, with, for example, right, I get over me here again, this woman over me here, right, she, very likely, right, Asami-san, she goes on this, as I mentioned, convention all the time, right, she might get people say, oh my god, she's so good in this, I don't know, new Isekai anime, I love her. And they say, what more she done? Oh, she was in Zombieland Sega, I haven't seen it, I'm gonna go and buy that, you know what I mean? I'm gonna pay so I can watch that on Crush or whatever, probably have a super, but anime is different, but you get my point, yeah. She's gonna pull in people, right, to watch her other shows, because she's popular, she's increasing in popularity. For example, I mentioned I For Us earlier. I For Us, her star power is going up every year, right? And now she's voicing Power in Chainsaw Man. It's a very popular anime right now, most popular anime right now, right? And I am sure, right, that her voicing Power is gonna make people go and watch, for example, then Dumbbell, Hibiki, right? Or maybe Hero, which is Valkyrie. People are probably gonna go back and watch her previous work because she's getting more and more famous and getting more and more fans. Basically, wanna go and buy her other stuff, right? It's just very, very simple celebrity entertainment industry system, right? This woman here, unfortunately, has done nothing like that whatsoever. And that's just, again, the facts. Nothing, which means that she's not gonna bring that table either, right? And I think that, again, then, the summary comes back, though, where I think that, or as I've proven, right, why the Japanese ways are more important, hard to replace, because they really burn for this shit, right? They really do everything else. Oh, I'm gonna sing the song, I'm gonna cosplay this character, I'm gonna go to every convention ever, I'm gonna do all this weird cheating stuff, I'm gonna do art of myself, or I'm gonna dress up. They do all this crazy stuff, right? And I agree that in some aspect it's very Japanese, it's very culturally Japanese, and it might be seen as extreme, right, in the rest of the world. But again, doesn't that really bring up the character? It really promotes all the stuff they're working on. People are keep liking them, so as it's like people enjoy them, right? They're gonna increase the sales of all of their work, right? You know what I mean? They're gonna increase not only that anime or that game, but all of their animes or all of their games or whatever are gonna increase in sales over perpetuity of time because they are more and more popular. I mean, am I the only one? Because that's also one reason, right? When I made my first video, and again, my knee actually was $4,000. Sounds pretty average. I was like, it sounds pretty basic. Something that usually would expect, right? And then I acquired it out, which is done, right? Because you know, as I said in the first video, I have never heard her name before. You know? I have no idea who she was, right? I played the game, of course, but I was like, oh, she's the Bayonetta voice actor. Well, obviously, given the controversy, what she's done more. My first thing, right, after I heard about this, was like, okay, what has she done more? I was like, oh, she's done nothing else. I was like, well, that's probably why they're giving her industry standard, right? Because she has zero fans, zero power. I know some people get very upset, right, with this video. Some people can be like, oh, I'm a biggest fan, but yeah, but are you really? You like Bayonetta, she hasn't done anything else. I keep saying that, I know, but I mean, you know, I'm hammering down the point that she hasn't increased her fan power, and you know, if she was a Japanese voice actress, right, she probably would be running around dressed by Bayonetta for 3 years. Like, seriously, but she probably would. And you might say that it's, and I know people say, oh, that's sexist and oh, anti-feminism, but it is how it works. If you're playing as a sexy female character, you should probably dress up as said sexy female character, right? At least once or twice for an interview. And just think about it. If she dressed up as Bayonetta, right, did one interview, as Bayonetta, you know, with the hair and everything, that would go viral, and she would have, you know, 1 million more subs, right, on Twitter or whatever, you know what I mean? That's the truth. She would be way more famous, right? And she could then try to get a higher salary. Am I the only one? Like, it's so obvious. That's why all the Japanese VAs get more money, but also why they're more important for the games and the anime, because they keep promoting their stuff, right? Anyway, guys, hope you liked the video. Hope I didn't sound too biased, right, for Japanese sounds. But last again, it's not about sub versus dub, right? Some people definitely say sub, some people definitely say sub, no, but it's about that the Japanese industry of VAs, they really go in to be their characters. They really go in to do the stuff, right? They're so much more, you know, hell-bent, basically, on promoting what they're doing, right? And that's also, of course, why, for example, you would rather hire a woman, right, that runs around, dress up as the character once a month, because that's like, well, she's really going for it. If I hire her, she might dress up as my character. Oh, I've written this elf lady warrior with red hair and big up eyes and, you know, bikini outfit, whatever, right? And then I asked the VA, are you willing to dress up as her as cosplaying, you know, once a month, every last Sunday, you know, at the cons? He's like, oh yeah, I do it. I was like, okay, great, you know, then you get the job because that's gonna promote my book or anime or video game, whatever. And see you guys and have a great day.